Hello, my name is Victoria McDonald, and welcome to the Week 1 MS-IDT project presentation for IDT 612, Final Project Phase 2 with Dr. Amy Grinchwitz. Flight Safety International is an aviation training company. Ideally, all employees at an aviation-based company would have a background in aviation. However, the need for skill diversity in the workplace leads to the hiring of individuals from a variety of backgrounds. This hiring of non-aviation professionals creates a knowledge gap due to the lack of aviation knowledge. This gap can lead to performance difficulties. During the instructional analysis, several individuals were interviewed. The interview sessions concluded that customer service representatives, or CSRs, have made scheduling errors in the past due to confusion over aviation terminology and certifications. The instructional analysis also found that courseware developers, or CDs, frequently interact with subject matter experts, or SMEs, to create courseware. Sometimes tensions arise between the SME and CD due to the CD's lack of understanding of aviation components and other aeronautical terms. These communication difficulties can lead to conflict, increased political tensions, and a lack of respect towards CSRs, CDs, and other so-called non-aviation professionals. This need was identified as a felt need from the non-aviation professional group. According to Morrison, Ross, Coleman, and Kemp, a felt need is an individual's desire to improve his or her performance. An instructional intervention based on general aviation can be used to address this knowledge gap. The scope of this project is to create an instruction based on establishing a baseline of general aviation knowledge for the non-aviation professional group. The ultimate goal for the instruction is for everyone to speak the same language. However, the scope of this project does not include instruction about learning how to fly a plane or the initial steps towards the individual's pilot certificate. It is about bridging the information gaps between pilots and non-pilots to create a more cohesive, productive, and communicative working environment. Morrison et al. State that instructional designers need to understand the relevant characteristics of the learners and how those traits provide limitations or opportunities on their designs. Flight safety is composed of two groups, aviation and non-aviation professionals. Aviation professionals consist of any teammates that come from an aviation background, such as pilots. This group is made up of instructors and most levels of management. The primary climate base is also included in this group. This group tends to be overwhelmingly male, Caucasian, and over the age of 50. In contrast, the non-aviation professional group is comprised of anyone who did not start their career at flight safety and has no aviation background. This group consists of a myriad of subcategories such as customer service representatives, courseware developers, marketing personnel, miscellaneous administrative professionals, and management who were previously a member of one of the aforementioned groups. The non-aviation professional group is primarily female, between the ages of 25 and 45, with a large cluster of millennials, racially mixed, possessing at least some education, if not a bachelor's degree, skilled in computers at an intermediate to advanced level, which is needed for completion of the regular job duties. Additionally, the aviation professional group generally starts at a much higher salary than their non-aviation professional counterparts. According to interviews, the aviation professionals are also more likely for promotion, especially for management. As previously stated, the underlying goal of the instruction is for everyone to speak the same language by establishing a baseline of aeronautical knowledge for the non-aviation professional group. In order to achieve this, 4 learning objectives were determined appropriate. 2 based on aviation terminology and acronyms, 1 based on the individual pilot certification process, and the 4th based on training center certifications. The project learning objectives are: number 1, the non-aviation professional will be able to interpret a list of 70 aviation acronyms and terminology with 80% accuracy. Number 2, the non-aviation professional will be able to differentiate the basic components on an aircraft on a diagram of an aircraft taught at their learning center with 90% accuracy. 3, the non-aviation professional will articulate the individual pilot certification process for a new pilot from the first solo flight to the full licensing of a multi-engine aircraft while referencing an outline of the process. And 4, the non-aviation professional will explain regulatory listings on the rainbow sheet while referencing a job aid. The learner analysis identified the target audience as primarily younger female professionals in the millennial age group. Hanshaw advises designing training for the majority of your audience. Toohey, Ray, Wichmann, Lin, and Boyes and Osborne suggest that while planning instruction for a millennial audience, one should incorporate individualized, interactive instruction into a learning management system. These assessments led e-learning modules to be selected as a delivery method in as much of a low-stress environment as possible. Therefore, the training would be delivered once the learner had been in their position for 3 to 6 months, long enough for them to get a handle on their primary job duties. The initial plan via the storyboarding process was 12 e-learning modules on various topics, approximately 20 minutes each, to be completed at the learner's convenience. For the prototyping process, the e-learning structure has been reduced to 7 modules. The module structure allows the target audience to not experience additional stress regarding the training. Major features of the training include narration, ambient background music for the slides lacking narration, engaging imagery, heeding Abella's advisement of using eye-catching graphics to pique the audience interest, periodic interactivity, and instructional videos for certain sections. A job aid will also accompany the training. Learner motivation and engagement is a key factor in order to follow through on the learner analysis of designing for a millennial audience. Morrison et al. Have also suggested that instructional games can be a motivational factor in training programs. The periodic interactive exercises is one strategy to keep the audience engaged. However, each module also begins with a relevance building mini scenario with a member of the target audience, a non-aviation professional like a courseware developer, interacting with an aviation professional, be it a client, SME, instructor, or manager. These scenarios help the learner realize why this relates to them, increasing their motivation to complete the training. The learner navigation is supplied by the Articulate Storyline Player. It features a sidebar of the slides in the module on the left side of the player, as well as forward and back buttons. A modern style was selected as a theme, and the font was changed to Roboto to match the text in the instructional intervention. The development experience. The development of the general aviation training began with an instructional design front-end analysis, or IDFEA. This process determined potential problems that may be improved by instruction. 2 interview sessions occurred. The initial set of interviews featured 5 people, 2 members of management, the head of human resources, a member of the target audience, and the 5th was a former instructor but was now a manager in the courseware department. These sessions identified and confirmed the assessment that there were indeed communication issues due to a lack of aviation knowledge from the target audience. The sessions also helped define exactly what those problems were and additional members of the learner group. The follow-up set of 3 interviews featured members of the target audience and confirmed the needs assessment. An instructional design project proposal, or IDPP, was the next step in the process. This followed up on the IDFEA's assessment, but included more detailed analysis of what the learning objectives would be, the delivery method, and what the sequence of the modules would be. The design document began the exploration of the aesthetic values of the courseware. Storyboards were produced with the basic structure and sequence of the modules as a whole. A more detailed sketch of a possible individual slide was also created, which included color schemes and a potential navigation array. A sans serif font, Roboto Condense, was used, following French's recommendation of choosing a readable font. This design would form the basis for the rest of the instructional intervention. Using the styles determined in the design document and storyboards, 3 small instructional materials were developed. 2 were interactive segments in Articulate Storyline, and the 3rd was a draft of the job aid that would ultimately accompany the instruction. The next step in the development process involved project management. Baca suggests that the preliminary planning process, one should draft a team structure that outlines the best possible scenario for effective project management. A communication and management plan was developed. This document identified potential stakeholders and their role in the development process. A Gantt chart and status report form were also devised. Now that a plan had been devised, development on a working prototype began. 2 e-learning modules were created. One module focused on a facts and concepts module, whereas the second revolved around a procedure approach for the pilot certification process. The facts and concept module had interactive sketches and was rich with imagery. The procedural module used a storytelling approach with the intent to engage learners and establish relevance between them and a prospective pilot. The intent of both modules was to provide a cohesive idea for the e-learning modules, but to establish a template where portions of each prototype could be repurposed to create additional modules. Once the 2 prototype modules were complete, alpha testing began. 3 individuals participated in the testing, 2 potential members of the target audience, and 1 SME. The testing featured quantitative questions with a Likert scale, as well as qualitative, open-ended questions. The participants answered questions regarding aesthetics, interface, and usability. The interview process was conducted via video chat. The results of the alpha testing were generally positive. Rubin and Chisnell encouraged steady, incremental progress and recognized that all minor revisions add up to a greatly improved product. However, the major change was the ongoing development of the project, expanding the template modules into the rest of the planned storyboard. It was at this point that, due to limited resources and a lack of a development team, as the project was being created by one person acting as the instructional designer, developer, project manager, and user testing administrator, the project was simplified into 7 modules, with some units consolidated into single modules. A plan to include narration, ambient music, and screencasting video demonstrations was also added. With the restructuring of the modules, beta development began. The beta testing was similar to the alpha testing in that the questions were similar, but there were 5 participants, also conducted through a video chat. Testers were guided through the project at its current state, as much was still in development. However, the more complete modules were deemed vision modules, so that the testers could visualize what the lesser developed modules were supposed to look like. The beta test included many of the same aesthetic and user interface questions as alpha. However, testers answered additional questions regarding the recently added narration, ambient music, and more evolved imagery. The results of the testing were positive, with no major changes to the theme or strategies involving development. The project is on track to finish development with the added narration and other content. Thank you so much for watching this presentation, and have a wonderful day.